It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here on SABC3. Now, when you hear that sound, you know it is time for Baby Talk. Now, today in Baby Talk, we'll be chatting about a topic that most women may find embarrassing to talk about openly, but in reality, it is really something that affects many women, especially after birth of a child. Now, it can be quite daunting for a new mom to experience issues with leaking and come as a bit of a shock to many. Now, to chat to us more about this issue is Denise Louw, founder of Mama Restore. Welcome back to us, Denise.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is quite an embarrassing topic to talk about it, but I like that we have this platform today to speak about it, leaking after birth, maybe. Is there a medical term for it, or is it leaking?
Okay, so probably the medical term would be urinary incontinence.
Okay.
But most people would be familiar with leaking, so that's why I've entitled it Leaking with Laughter, because that's when it happens, when there's sort of downward pressure, when you laugh, you cough, you sneeze, or you go trampolining and you get that embarrassing moment, and it can be quite worrying, especially for a new mum and a first-time mum. They're like, oh gosh, what's happening? Is this now me for life? I'm going to suffer with this. And they won't talk about it. They're too shy. They're too embarrassed.
Will these issues then settle down after birth, or do you need to do something to help relieve this pressure of it?
Yeah, okay, so it will resolve. Obviously, there's a lot of downward pressure onto the pelvic floor because of the fact that you're carrying a baby. So as the baby grows, there's this continuous downward pressure onto the pelvic floor, and the muscles, weaken. They take a lot of strain. The thing is that after you've birthed your baby, is you need to give the body time to heal. It doesn't just ka-ching and spring back. It needs time, and that's the thing I don't think women are giving themselves. So those muscles need to heal as well, and that takes time. So normally I would say at the end of the 4th trimester, so we're talking 16 weeks, things should have sorted themselves out. If they're not, now this is the key thing, don't suffer in silence. You need to know where to go.
Okay. And where do women need to go?
Okay, so normally you could go to your GP and say, look, I've got an issue, I'm worried about this, I'm concerned, and they then should refer you to a physiotherapist that specialises in pelvic floor health.
Okay.
So they can help you, because, you shouldn't have to continue with this. You should be happy to still be able to jump and skip and play with the kids and trampoline and not have that issue.
And I can think that it's very scary for a new mom, especially if it's your first time having a baby and then thinking, like, why am I still leaking afterwards? Can I then say that this is more common in a mother that gave birth naturally as opposed to a C-section, or would it kind of then be the same?
Okay, so that's a really interesting question. So the fact is yes, if you've had a natural birth, obviously there's more stretching and there's more downward pressure onto the pelvic floor. So yes, a mother delivering that way might have more issues. But with a C-section, there's still the effect of being pregnant and that downward pressure onto the pelvic floor because of the pregnancy. But when they do a C-section, to take the baby out, they actually tug onto the pelvic floor. And, there's still that risk of damage to the bladder during a C-section. I mean, it has been known, it's not common, but they can actually cut the bladder unintentionally. So, the bladder can be affected. And this pelvic floor still takes strain, and the connective tissue in the pelvic floor. So it doesn't actually really matter. It's just, obviously, still, if you have a C-section, you need to think about your pelvic floor.
Now, there's something very common called Kegling. I don't know if a lot of people know about it. Can you explain a bit more of what Kegling is? You can't obviously show us.
I love Kegels. I love talking about Kegels.
And also just like, how long after should we then start engaging in Kegling?
Okay. I love that you say Kegling. Oh, dear. Okay, so let's just talk about the difference, okay? So a Kegel is a muscle contraction of the pelvic floor. The issue with too much Kegling is that you end up with a tight pelvic floor, and some people look at that as, well, that's got to be a good thing.
I would think.
But not necessarily when you want to birth is it a good thing. And it becomes too tight. It gets a bit technical, but because of the tilt of the pelvis when you're pregnant, like this, it puts your pelvis out of tilt. So there's a pull on your sacrum, pulling onto the pelvic floor, making it tight. But weak tight. So that's why we spend so much time with pregnancy, is trying to get people to not do that pregnancy stance, but to keep their pelvis in neutral, to stop that pulling on the pelvic floor. And another thing that contributes to weakness in the pelvic floor, or weak butt, your glutes. You've got to do lots of squats and lunges. You've got to keep that butt strong to be able to reverse the pull to keep the pelvic floor nice and strong. So the thing is with Kegling is that if you do too many and you've got this dysfunction already with the tilt of your pelvis, you're actually making things worse rather than better. You're actually weakening your pelvic floor as opposed to strengthening it. And post-birth, you don't want to be doing that too soon. You need to give the body time to heal, and Kegling will not make it heal quickly. It's the opposite. So you need to give the body time. I'm not saying Kegels are a bad thing, but there's a time and a place for them.
Everything. Maybe we can delve a little bit deeper into part 2 of our conversation. Denise Louw is here to talk about the leaking post-birth. We'd love to hear from you. So engage with us on our social media. That's Expresso Morning Show on SABC3. Use that all-important hashtag Expresso Show.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show right here on SABC3. It's a Thursday and it's part 2 of Baby Talk. Now, we're talking about something quite common with women, also quite embarrassing, but this is a platform for us to speak about it, leaking after birth. Now, Denise Louw is in studio this morning just to continue this conversation. Now, before the break, or part 1, we were speaking about the Kegling exercises. However, there are also other exercises. What would be the 3 exercises post-birth, and maybe a time frame we can start doing that to help get that pelvic floor ready again? Okay,
so it is research. It's based on scientific evidence. So the top 3 exercises would be, the number 1 is a shoulder bridge. So I'm a bit dressed here, but it's where you lay on your back with your knees bent and then you lift your hips.
Okay, so like you would do in the gym with the barbell?
No weights.
Okay.
No weights, no. Just gently lifting your hips up and down. That's a really good one, the shoulder bridge, because also it's about trying to build up the strength in your butt muscle, right? And then squats and lunges, because again, they build up the posterior side, so it helps balance out the pelvic floor. So those are the top 3, shoulder bridge, squats and lunges.
Okay. How soon would you then start introducing these exercises? Would you even say you should start doing them during pregnancy?
Absolutely do them during pregnancy, 100%, because that's going to obviously make your pelvic floor stronger. But remember that it's like any other set of muscles. They need to be warmed up, they need to be strengthened, they need to be stretched, and they need to be released. So there's a whole lot of things going on down under the carriage that which you don't think about that needs to be taken into consideration. And then post-birth, you don't want to be doing this too soon. You need to give the body time to settle and to heal.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't advocate doing any hectic exercises like that until you've had your first post-checkup with your gynecologist.
Which is usually like 6 weeks after.
6 to 8 weeks, yes.
And what if the leaking does not go away? What should a mother then do?
Well, then she needs to look for help, you know. It's quite difficult to know where to go, but definitely the first starting point would be to go to your doctor, tell them about the issue, and then they can refer you to... And I would say, instead of going to a gynecologist or a urologist at this stage, is seek the help of a physiotherapist who specialises in pelvic floor health.
Okay.
And we have got 3 good ones in the Western Cape, and there are others. If you just search a little bit online, there are other provinces that have these specialists in this field, and they really understand what's going on. They can help you reconnect with those muscles and sort it out.
You made it sound so easy, but thank you so much for joining in on this conversation. I think there's still so much to speak about because, again, it is quite an embarrassing topic to talk about, but once we just bring light into this, we can, of course, just eliminate that embarrassing. So thank you so much to Denise Louw, who is joining us in studio. Now let's take it over to Kat and Kutle.